Nice weather streak continues. I still find it weird that all these weather predictions keep saying chance of rain. I don't think there is. And what did I read today? How about this one? I guess that topic of whether or not law enforcement should be able to equip their drones with tasers are coming up again. This one says NYPD should equip drones with tasers for 911 calls, according to pro-Trump congressman. Is this getting political and stuff too with this, I guess? As it says here, the New York Police Department plans to use drones to respond to some 911 calls in a new program, according to testimony delivered Thursday at a House Homeland Security Committee hearing in Washington, D.C. And while that's concerning enough, one Republican congressman had some ideas about how to improve the idea. Specifically, he wants those new drones equipped with tasers. I remember last time that topic came up, people were really unhappy with that and they basically scrapped the plans with law enforcement using drones with tasers and all that. It says, drones are absolutely a wonderful way. I think it saves lives. I think it saves officers' lives. I'll even take it to the next step and say eventually we should put non-lethal weapons on drones. Use one to tase somebody, Rep. Troy Nehls of Texas said with a smile.
You know, when we would have high-risk warrants, we would send a drone overhead just to evaluate the situation, see if there's anybody going in and going out. Drones are absolutely a wonderful way. I think it saves lives. I think it saves officers' lives. And I'll even take it to the next step and say eventually we should put non-lethal on drones. Use one to tase somebody. You know, how are you gonna knock that drone out of the air that's 10 feet above you? If you have a camera on it and you can communicate with that drone and that drone can communicate with that suspect, I think it's gonna save officers' lives.
And it goes on to say, how close are we to seeing taser drones actually deployed by US police departments? That part isn't clear. Axon, the largest maker of taser products in the US, announced in 2022 that it was developing taser drones, but the company supposedly halted development after pushback from a majority of its ethics boards, which resigned in protest. And the CEO goes on to give kind of an interesting perspective actually, where if, let's just say, people like them make these types of tools available to police, one of the concerns are they won't necessarily just use it in extreme cases. It says, the problem, of course, is whenever the police get new toys, they don't just use them in the most extreme cases. And given this country's trajectory, it's way too easy to imagine a world where weaponized drones are responding to every 911 call. But what would you think of that? Would you think it's okay, for example, because it's, quote, law enforcement using it, and many times it would be, quote, safer, I guess, as they imply? I wouldn't doubt it, but at the same time, how do you stop people from abusing it? And at the same time, it's inconsistent where it's the toys, for example, that people constantly fearmonger. And I saw this today, which was crazy. If you remember, there was that vehicle that crashed on the bridge in Louisville and it was dangling and a lot of people had to try to help them out, but they apparently released the footage now. You can see it from the inside here. And from the looks of this video anyways, what it seemed like happened was there was an oncoming car where for whatever reason they got aggressive and wanting to change lanes, but they hit the vehicle and then the person tried to maintain control, but they couldn't, I guess. I was thinking too, can you imagine the post-traumatic stress of surviving something like this? It's fortunate the person did survive, but it makes me wonder how terrified you would be in driving a vehicle, I guess, after an experience like this, huh? And with that news, I guess, in the US, where they're potentially going to ban TikTok if they don't find, let's just say, a, quote, buyer that has no, I guess, relations of sort with the CCP, here in Canada, they're giving warnings about the app, it seems like. This one says, intelligence chief warns Canadians that China can use TikTok to spy on them. As they say here, in some of his most hawkish comments to date, the head of Canada's intelligence agency is warning Canadians, including teenagers, against using the widely popular video app TikTok. My answer as director of the Canadian Security Intelligence Service is that there is a very clear strategy on the part of the government of China to be able to acquire personal information from anyone around the world, said CSIS Director David Vigneault in an interview with CBC's The House airing Saturday. Vigneault said it's very clear from the app's design that data gleaned from its users is available to the government of China. Most people can say, why is it a big deal for a teenager now to have their data on TikTok? Well, in 5 years, in 10 years, that teenager will be a young adult. He will be engaged in different activities around the world, he told host Catherine Cullen. If you are, for whatever reason, getting in the crosshairs of the People's Republic of China, they will have a lot of information about you. Although it makes me wonder too, with this phrase here, how many other big tech companies are doing this as well. It says they're using big data analytics. They have amazing computer farms crunching the data. They're developing artificial intelligence based on using this data. Vanel said, the ultimate goal is always to protect the interests of the Chinese Communist Party, and so from that point of view, in many ways, this is a threat to the way we live. And the usual argument I heard from the company anyways was how things like their servers are not located in China, but I know the argument is it doesn't matter because they still give access to it. That's the accusation anyways, to people like the Communist Party. And at the same time, they talk about things, for example, the types of permissions you give when you use the app. It says, why does an application need access to all of my contact lists? Why does it need access to my calendar, my email, my phone records? Said Kari, head of Communication Security Establishment's Canadian Center for Cybersecurity. You layer on top of that risk of connecting my 200 contacts with your 200, and then you have an aggregate of information. In some cases, it lands in places that don't live by the same principles of the rule of law. I think one thing I read before, people were accusing the app of being able to keep track of things like your keystrokes. That's one of the accusations anyways. So with places like the US wanting to, I guess, ban it in a sense, will Canada here do the same? And again, this isn't the first place that has already banned the app. Places like India has done it. I know for me, when it comes to this topic, I mentioned before, it's always weird how, like in China, they banned virtually everything, for example, such as YouTube and so forth, but yet their applications can be used like everywhere else. And at the same time, ironically, TikTok itself is actually banned in China too. All right, see you guys later.